In this tutorial, I'll be teaching you the easiest way you can use to cut and sew this bishop collar. Definitely there are several ways to cut and sew this bishop collar, but in this particular tutorial, I'll be teaching you the easiest of those ways that you can use to cut and sew this bishop collar. By the way, I've been making a series on how to cut and sew this particular stylish bubu that you are seeing on your screen. I made a tutorial on how to cut the bubu. I made a tutorial on how to sew the bubu. I made a tutorial on how to cut the inner, because this bubu has an inner that is attached to it like an underwear. I also made a detailed tutorial on how to sew the underwear. Now it's time to cut the bishop collar on the neck, and I'll be centering this tutorial on how to cut and sew a bishop collar, like the easiest way. This tutorial is absolutely beginners friendly because it's the easiest method that you can use to cut and sew a bishop collar. Firstly, you need to understand that there are different kinds of this bishop collar, in the sense that some can face the front, that they will be opening at the front. Some can face back, that they'll be opening at the back. Like the case of this particular one I made for this bubu is facing the back, so the opening is at the back. So the first thing you will do is to measure round where your bishop collar is entering, which is obviously the neckline. So you have to measure round the neckline that your bishop collar is entering. Sometimes this bishop collar is always extended into the zip. If you are sewing it for a dress that has zip at the back, sometimes the bishop collar is extended into the zip. So you have to measure the zip allowance on the bishop collar while you are measuring, so that it does not end up being short. I hope my explanation is clear. So for this particular bubu, is entering just the neckline, and what I did was to measure round the place that this bishop collar is entering. So I folded my neckline into two, and then I measured from one side to the other. So after measuring, whatever you've measured, you have to multiply by 2, considering that the neckline was on fold of 2 while I was measuring. The next thing is you have to determine how wide, like the width of your bishop collar. It can be 1 inch, it can be 1.5, it can be 2 inches wide. It depends on your choice. But this particular one I'm cutting is 1.5 inches wide. Then I'll be adding allowance that I'll be using to turn it up, and 1/2 inch that I'll be using to stitch it to the neckline. So instead of cutting 1.5 inch, what I will cut is 2.5 inches in total with the allowance. The next is to pick up the fabric that you'll be using to cut the bishop collar, and then you fold it on bias like this. It's important to fold it on bias like this. Then, considering that I'll be using one to turn the other, like the same fabric is what I used as the lining and the actual fabric, I cut the 2 of them at the same time. That's why I'm folding a fabric that is on fold of 2 on bias, so that I can cut both of them at the same time. The one that will be inside as the lining and the one that will be outside as the actual fabric, I'll be cutting them together. So that measurement that I measured round the neckline, I'll measure it while my fabric is on fold of 2 like this. And mind you, please don't place your tape rule straight. Make sure it's a bit curved. See the way I'm placing my tape rule, like it's not straight, I curve it a bit. So that's the way you will place your tape rule as well. So when you are done marking that part, the next is to measure the length. That part that you marked is the exact place that you'll be stitching on top of the neckline. So I used 2.5 inches as my own length. I'll be measuring these 2.5 inches in like 2 or 3 places, and then I'll connect it together. What is next after this is cut it out. So I'll cut it out at the up, and I'll cut it out at the down. If at this point you are still with me or you've not subscribed, please don't forget to subscribe, and don't just subscribe, turn on your notification bell so that YouTube can notify you when next time I upload a new tutorial on this channel, because on this channel I upload sewing tutorials on daily basis. So basically that's it for the cutting of this bishop collar. What is next is to start sewing. So when you are done cutting, this is what it should look like. Not straight, just curved like this. And this is for the 2-piece, like the one that will be the outer layer and the inner layer. That's like the actual fabric and the lining. So what I did next was to interface mine. For the interfacing, I used medium thick gum stay. You can use interfacing of your choice, and this depends on how structured you want it to be. You can use stay, you can use paper stay, you can use gum stay, you can even use the thickest gum stay. It depends on what you are trying to achieve, like the structure, like how thick you want your bishop collar to be. That's what will determine the kind of interfacing that you are using. And because I used mine on the neckline of a dress that has a keyhole at the back, that keyhole that enables a dress to pass through the neck easily, that means I needed to put button at the tip of my bishop collar. So I created this small loop where the button will stay on, and then I stitched it together, like I turned it together with the collar. But after creating that small loop, I had to stitch it on the collar first before turning. So to turn, I used two loops. You can use like button holder. I used two button holder. You can use one, and if your dress does not require a button holder, you don't have to, like, you just have to skip this part and proceed to turning. So to turn, I turned the up and I turned the sides. I turned with ½ inch. When I was cutting the length, I added 1 inch so that I can use ½ inch to turn it on both sides. So what I measured inside the neckline, I added 1 inch to the length. So after turning, I flipped it to the right side, and then I used my pressing iron to press down the edge of my collar on both sides. Like I used it to fold it inward so that when I want to stitch on the neckline, it will be easy. It's just to put the neckline into it and stitch. Then I folded it into two, and I put a mark at the middle. You know, at this point I can no longer notch that middle because I have folded the edge inward. But for the dress, on the neckline of the dress itself, I had to put a notch. So what I did next was to align these two notches together, like the center of the bishop collar where I marked and the center of the neckline where I notched. I put it together. I put it inside of the bishop collar. I put the neckline inside of the bishop collar, and then I proceeded to stitching. Just make sure that at this point everything is set. You've checked the length. The neckline and the bishop collar, they are the same length. Then you'll be using like 1/4 inch to stitch it on top of it, and put the neckline inside very well so that it's not coming out or something. I hope my explanation is clear. So this is what mine is looking like when I was done. You can see the inside is very, very neat, and the outside is very, very neat as well. There's another way to join this bishop collar. You can join it like right side facing right side, and then you weave it later. But this way is always neater. If you were to join it like right side facing right side, you won't need to use your pressing iron to fold inside the edges. You just need to press it properly, and then you face the right side to right side and stitch. But this way of joining it to the neckline is always neater. I hope this tutorial has been helpful to you. If it has been, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions, please ask me down in the comment section. My comment section is always open to answer all of your questions. As much as possible, let me share my tutorial amidst your friends. Do not forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you've not. Like I said earlier, I made a detailed tutorial on how I was able to cut and sew the whole of this very beautiful bobo. If you're interested in watching that tutorial, just click on the box on the right side of your screen. I also made a detailed tutorial on how to cut and sew the inner. This bobo has an inner. If you're interested in watching that, please click on the box on the left side of your screen. The inner is stitched together with the bobo. I explained all of that in these tutorials, and in case you missed the box, check the description box below. You will see all the links that take you directly to all these tutorials I spoke about. Just click on those links, they will take you directly to the tutorials. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in my next tutorial.